Good evening, everyone. We are again virtually connected for the Organon class. So, we are back for the Organon class. Today is a very, very special day in the sense that we are almost set to finish this introduction of author to this magnum opus book, Organon of Medicine. On the 10th of April, when we started this voyage of Organon, that day it was looking as if what a tough kind of job we are doing. I was though like very, very serious anticipations. I don't know, would there be anyone to listen all this? Generally, the subject of Organon is really not well taken. But then it's really overwhelming for me that so many of you are connected. Not today, I mean every day. If suppose there are many those who are writing me comments that so many of you, if cannot join live, they listen it as per the convenient time and somehow they catch up with the next one. So one of my delusion is cured, that I felt that there are hardly anyone to learn, listen, read, study Organon of Medicine. But I'm sorry, I must confess that this delusion is over. I find many of you, rather all of you, are rather much more serious to read and study Organon even more than me. I really appreciate all of you. And as so many of you tell me that I make it very interesting. So I tell you the truth. Whatever interesting, whatever facts you're getting, they are not that I made it. They are my teachers, especially my respected teacher, Dr. Alim Khan, who actually inculcated the interest, the love for the Organon, and for every line, what you felt, what you really found very useful, is actually belongs to him. And my job is to really carry forward, share this knowledge as I gathered from him. I must say that I'm not the very good gatherer even to collect all of those things he told me, and maybe so many of very, very interesting and important things slipped out of my mind, or I could not really present while I'm talking to you live. But definitely, whatever I am able to share with you, if it has inculcated this interest, this love for this organon, I am sure the purpose, what all these stalwarts like my father and many more, including Sir Dr. L.M. Khan, that the science of Organon, the understanding of the Organon, the art of Organon, the art of homeopathy, the true art of healing uh, will remain in the hands of coming generation of homeopathy. And definitely you all will be sharing your knowledge with the people, those who are interested, those who are really liking to know things. And now, today, let us go further. Yesterday, we talked about how Hahnemann could gather the glimpses and the examples with evidences, with testimonies, that in the old school prescription, so many of the prescriptions from which the patient became directly all right, cured without any substantial loss or any loss of strength, fluids, etc. They were just nothing. Might be the old school boasting themselves, but then it was an unconscious practice of homeopathy which they were doing. And he gave all the examples, compare it with some of the examples of practice of medical treatment by the folk people, by the non-medical people. Like example of arnica, example of so many examples were there. Now, this is the next part, the next two parts which we are going to discuss today. The first one, he is going to give us the examples, maybe some four examples in the different paragraphs, in the forthcoming paragraphs, about how people were knowing, even really not belonging to the medical practice, but as a folk, as a journal people, as a common human being. So when these commons, they were using certain kind of uh, medicines for some of the illness, when in every era there is certain group of illness for which hardly you see a doctor, you treat yourself or somebody in the home treat for you. So this is the folk medicine. Then those days Hahnemann could find out how they were using the different medicines or different things, practicing something for the good of some kind of sickness, is actually nothing but following the law of similia, doing homeopathy. Then thereafter, we will be knowing some seven personalities of different era, right from the BCs till the recent time just before Hahnemann, how they were advocating, they were actually realizing and writing so that the method of treatment should be based on law of similia. They were able to belonging to the old school, but somehow they may be the pure souls among the uh, old school, that they could see this glimpse of the salutary truth, the eternal truth in respect of healing humankind, healing suffering humankind. So let us start, let us go ahead with. that what are the examples he is going to talk to us. So he says, 84th or 85th paragraph, just see with your book. For even the domestic practice of the non-medical classes of community endowed with sound observant faculties has many times proved this mode of treatment to be the three things you say, to be the surest, the most radical, and the least fallacious in practice. Just see 86th paragraph, right? So this is the 86th paragraph where he says some non-medical people. Why he's saying some? Because some of the people may not be doctor, but somehow they are they are being blessed in such a way since their growing age, since their birth. They are blessed in such a way that they really know how to heal somebody. They born with a degree of a doctor. He is blessed by the Almighty. Yes, go. Even if you touch, people will be all right. Such kind of people. That is why I'm saying all these words. I'm not just making the flair of things, but then he used a word, endowed. In the insurance, you must have read this word, endowment policy. What actually the endow means? It means gifted. It means equipped. Better word is a gifted word. So people born with this gift, who gave this gift? The all powerful Almighty gave this, blessed this gift to this human being. They are able to perceive by their observant faculties this law of similia. They are unable to name it as a law of similia, but then they could understand this is the mode of treatment which is going to be, which is having three things. It is surest, the most radical, and the least fallacious. What is the speciality? Why I am reading it thrice? That all the three words, he made it in superlative degree. He did not say sure, he did not say radical, he said surest, he said most radical, and for the fallacious, he said least. Using these words, first two words are the positive words telling about the surety and directness of the treatment mode. Mode of treatment is so sure and it is so direct. And if you find whether it can fail, no, it cannot fail. For example, suppose if we find somebody of our very nearer and dearer is ill, and really seriously ill, requires some very, very salutary, very, very curative, right medicine, right treatment. If doctor says this is a very serious illness, I know one medicine, it may be 50% useful. Will you be very happy giving this medicine to your nearer and dearer one, waiting for your response? Will you give? Will you really give such medication? I am asking you. Write me in the chat. 50% is really the medicine which is going to be successful. So we will be having, most of us, including me, will say, no, let me just get some other opinion. Yes, every one of you saying so. What I wish to say, suppose if it is asked what should be the percentage of the surety of the medicine, how much will you go? You will not talk less than 100. This is the meaning. This is the meaning of surest. And nowadays, I tell you, in the research methodology, especially in the biostatistics, when you when you do some biostatistical calculations about the effect of a medicine, you do two things mathematically. This biostatistics has nothing to do with homeopathy, nothing to do with allopathy. They only gauge, they only find out the effectiveness of the medication, treatment, whatever the intervention is, to see that in what percentage it is found effective as per the data you fed in. In that, it is said that any drug which is not really showing something to be called 99.95%, means they only give 0.05 lag, only 0.05 lag. This much of lag is given. If any drug, if the effectiveness of any drug less than 0.05, they don't accept this medicine for the purpose of treatment. That is why they are saying HCQS is not good for COVID-19. This medicine not good for COVID-19. They are doing all the trials and everything because they want to be here on this word, surest. This is the meaning of surest. Maybe Henman, in the time of Master Henman, this biostatistics and all, I don't think they actually born even or not. Such subjects were really not born. But then he was able to talk in those terms even. This is the understanding we must feel. And why should we feel? Because we can appreciate the recently developed words which we like, biostatistics and methodology, because what Henman is talking, he is talking methodology and biostatistics. He is very clearly mentioning things in a very, very straightforward methodology, but in very, very less, but in a very, very subtle way, he is talking biostatistics in the whole text of the author. Since the biostatistics subject was not really born, so he could not, he was working for the ways of treatment, that is the art of healing, not on biostatistics, but then he could see, he could express it. Many more such examples will come to see. So the point is to understand is that he wanted to say that those people, not really the medical man, but they were blessed with such faculties that they could see there is a mode of treatment which they could not really name. But then they understood that this is surest, most radical, and least fallacious. In recent, now he starts with the example, the first example. In recent cases of frostbitten limbs, frozen sauerkraut is applied, or frictions of snow are used. What is he telling? He is telling, if suppose somebody's limb, means your foot or some place, your toes, exposed to the snow in such a way that it has beaten you. This ice has beaten your skin, called frostbite. It's a simple meaning that because of too much of ice, your skin got burnt. So when this kind of condition has come, how these non-medical people were treating it? They were treating it either by frozen sauerkraut or frictions of snow on that part. What is this sauerkraut? Sauerkraut is like if you make a pickle of cabbage. You understand cabbage? If you make a pickle of the cabbage, you understand how to make a pickle. You just garnish it with some kind of spices and keep it for some time. Why keep it some time? Because of the process of osmosis, a lot of water will come out. It will be kind of fermentation of the cabbage. If you put this fermented cabbage, a pickly cabbage, and get it frozen in your refrigerator, if such kind of condition comes, if you apply this frozen cabbage on that part, or if that's not available, you apply simply some ice cubes on it. It is going to help. One example, some details we will come on that because he has given a footnote. We will come to the footnote. Because in this footnote, he is talking about isopathy. He is talking about a comparison of homeopathy with isopathy. You all understand that isopathy is by some Mr. M. Lux. You can see in the footnote, first line, footnote 1, first line, that Hahnemann is not mentioning him as doctor. He's mentioning him as Mr. Why? Because he's talking some of the people, those who are not really doctor, but then ultimately seeing such examples, Mr. Lux, though not knowing about homeopathy, he thought it is something like same will help same. He came out with one kind of system of treatment, treating the same with the same, on which Hahnemann is writing so many explanations, justifying it with so many examples. We will talk on that. Let us just have some more look on examples like this. Next example, that is 87th paragraph. The experienced cook, chef, holds his hand, which he has scalded at a certain distance from the fire, and does not heed the increase of pain that takes place at first, as he knows from experience that he can thereby in a very short time, often in minutes, converts the burnt part into healthy, painless skin. I don't know how many of you are going in the kitchen regularly, but I believe this COVID-19 taught even all men how to cook, or at least those who know cooking, all the boys, uh, they must have shown their skill very well. But then if you ask your mother, your grandmother, or such, those who have been really the custodian of kitchen, you ask them, did you feel burn? They will tell you the same thing what Hahnemann is saying. Some small burn, they just keep it all right, just keeping your burnt part near the fire, and they become all right. For example, those who really does not know cooking, if they try to uh, cook some chapati. So it is very difficult for you, for me, to change the side of the chapati. But have you seen those who are doing it, mother and all such people? They do it very fast. And the way they do it, they say our fingers are not burning, but then we can't do it. Even if their finger is getting burnt, because the homeopathic impact of the heat around, it just become all right. This is the example he's quoting. I think most of the time such kind of thing we have not noticed. So in such conditions, they are not really burning their fingers and all. Rather, they make it again healthy. Here also he has given certain footnotes related to the burn. Now, related to the burn, this is one example, and he is giving some, I think, two more examples. Just let us have a look on that and we'll go in the footnotes then. 86 we have done, 87, 88, 89 para. Other intelligent non-medical persons, as for example, the manufacturers of lacquered ware. Who are these? Those who are making the frames of the some kind of portrait. When you make a frame of the portraits, earlier it was all with the wood, and they used to make that wooden frame. In a process of doing that beautification of that, they were doing polishing and everything, for which they have to use certain chemicals, and those chemicals are they used to use such kind of chemicals which are really boiled kind of chemical. So this is, as Priya Garg is writing, by the process increase the burning pain of the scald part as I experienced. So this is the people, those who are doing this lacquered ware, making these kind of frames and polishing them. For them, what was happening? Apply to a part, scald it with the hot varnish. They use varnish to make it very smooth and beautiful. A substance that causes similar burning sensation, such as if suppose they got burnt with the hot varnish, they were applying on that the heated spirits of wine. I explained you what is wine. If that is really a little bit of warm, not really boiled, it may burn, but then it is somewhat heated. When this spirit of wine is applied to such kind of scalds, when you are getting burnt with the liquid, we call it scald. So scalded place, they are applying such kind of spirit of wine, or there can be another thing, oil of turpentine. If you apply that, they have a similar kind of property to cause a feeling, a stage kind of burning, as it is scalded or burnt. And by that means, cure themselves in the course of few hours, whereas cooling salves are ointments which give you thandak, which give you very cooling effect, as they are well aware, would not effect a cure in as many months. What is there? These folklore, these folk people, these blessed people, gifted people, were really curing this kind of burn in few hours. Such burn cannot be cured even in months by using some cooling ointments. Then another thing, what even now we do it for the burn, and cold water would but make matters worse. What we do? Any burn, immediately wash it with cold water. Even we advise, because we homeopathic doctors never read this portion of Hahnemann, this area of Hahnemann. You might remember I told you that in this portion it is going to give us so many good clinical points which are directly related, which are useful tips in the clinic. Yesterday I told you one case that out of the clue written here, that for too much of frequency of urination, give Ethusa synapium. So after reading this, I told you yesterday I gave one small child this medicine. That boy, maybe 3-4 years old, parsley juice, correct. That is actually Ethusa synapium. So I gave few doses of Ethusa synapium 200 to him, and you will not be surprising the way his mother writing to me how many things, and in how what excitement you can't imagine, because every 5 minutes, even twice in 5 minutes, this small kid going to loo. And even when she consulted with the pediatrician, urologist and all that, they were reaching to the conclusion to put this child on some kind of antidepressive medicines. Can you believe this? And when they understood, when that family understood the gravity of the problem, and when they talked to me, I gave this medicine. I said, you do whatever, just give me a day. And in this one day, thanks to Hahnemann, it did wonder. Similarly, in all these examples, after reading this, after getting enlightened with the experience and the very, very scholarly writings of Master Hahnemann, we will be able to treat burn. We shouldn't take the cantharis as our medicine just for a superficial burn. It is not. Recently, I think not really recently, but some for 2-3 months, I'm treating a case of burn. That lady, she was some, I think 50, 55 years, maybe 60 years lady. She was to somebody's neighbor's house for some puja, and because of some diya putting somewhere in the side, her sari got burnt. You can understand what would have happened to that lady. She got very serious burns in the legs below the knee. And initially, as they feel very salutary treatment they are going to get from the Max hospital. But then all the same. And now she is on homeopathy, recovering. But then how I have seen such a, maybe definitely the deep burn. She was hospitalized and some fluid management was necessary. But then they did not include homeopathy in that. They are starting doing homeopathy now, recovering, but then very, very torturous. And treatment is more torturous than the burn. And then side effects. That is why he's saying months. That is why I'm narrating you this case. So let us just see how many kind of things he is telling us for doing all this. So whatever you do, you use some kind of cooling ointment, or even if you wash it with the cold water, it is going to worsen the case. But then if you redo something to be called as homeopathic to the case, it make wonders. I have seen, certain of the cases. Like for example, in every family, some kind of cooking accident occurs, and in the family you get such burns. You may call it as the superficial burn, but then getting a scald on the abdomen, you can understand how painful it would be. And can you believe the lady which got burned on the abdomen, got scalded on the abdomen, became all right in 1 hour, and she was back to the kitchen, cooked and served everyone. This is the power of homeopathy. This is the power of Hahnemann's experience and Hahnemann's teachings. It is such a great science, art of healing, actually the true art of healing. So these are the examples we could just understand. And now let us see the footnotes. First of all, we go back to the uh, first footnote, which is about Mr. Lux. It is on such examples of domestic practice that Mr. Lux founds his so-called mode of cure by identicals and idem, which he calls isopathy, which some eccentric-minded persons have already adopted as the non plus ultra. Non plus ultra means that there is nothing beyond. There is nothing beyond isopathy of a therapeutic method without knowing how they could carry it out. And means is you have never imagined how will you carry it, and you made it something only way of treatment. It is not, and for that, Hahnemann is going to explain so many things. But if we examine these instances attentively, we find that they do not bear out these views. It will not be bearing any fruits. The purely physical powers differ in the nature of their action on the living organisms from those of dynamic medicinal kind. So here he is saying first, there are certain physical powers. They differ with the dynamic things. Means anything which is in crude state differs when it is in dynamic state. Here he is going to give you explanations about those when he is telling the treatment for the frostbite by the frozen sauerkraut or using some kind of ice cubes on the burnt on the frostbite part. He is telling it is not that the physical kind of thing that ice is going to treat ice. It's not that. The physical things are not really for that purpose. It has no such treatment gravity or treatment power to help. So he's going to say something, just read here. Heat or cold of the air that surrounds us, or of water, or of our food, drink, occasion as heat and cold of themselves no absolute injury to the healthy body. Heat and cold are in their operations essential to the maintenance of healthy life. Consequently, they are not of themselves medicine. So you just cannot make the physical things as medicines like water, air, all these things cannot be medicine. Heat and cold, therefore, act as a curative agents in affections of the body not by virtue of their essential nature, not therefore as cold and heat per se, not as things hurtful in themselves, as are the drugs, rhubarb, china, etc., even in the smallest doses, but only by virtue of their greater or smaller quantity. If I am, it depends on the quantity of that physical things. Like if I am in some 4 feet of water standing, I will not drown and die. But then if I am in more than 6 feet of water, and if I don't know how to swim because of this physical quantity, definitely I am going to die. I'm definitely going to drown in it. So similarly, if I'm in so much of ice for a longer time, I will get a burn from the ice. So he's trying to make us understand that physical things, depending on their quantity, may be good, may be harmful to us. So, but only by virtue of their great or smaller quantity, that is, according to their degrees of temperature, just as to take an example from purely physical powers, a great weight of lead will bruise my hand painfully, not by virtue of its essential nature as lead, for a thin plate of lead would not bruise me. You understood this point? Not a very difficult thing. But in consequence of its quantity and massive weight, it is only the physical things, whatever it may be. If we read the physical and chemical properties of the lead, you understand lead is a metal. It's not really going to harm us as its physical property. It's not written. It is only, it's not the essential part of it. Rather, it is just simply by its weight only it is going to be harmful. So this is what he is trying to understand in context of Mr. Lux. That how could you think this issue of isopathy going to help? In the initial thing he was writing, when he started with the thing, he is writing two words: identicals, idem. Identical, idem, it means same, treating same with the same. This was known as isopathy. So going further, second para of this footnote, if then cold or heat by serviceable in bodily ailments like frostbites or burn, they are so solely on account of their degree of temperature. Like if he is treating the frostbite with somewhat kind of frozen thing, it is only by the degree it is going to help. Not that the ice is helping ice injury. No, only the temperature and the in temperature also the degree of the temperature. Just as they only inflict injury on the healthy body by their extreme degree of temperature. Is again and again trying to realize us that it is the matter about the degree of it, not that heat is helping heat. No, it is a very narrow view of understanding. As Henman says, you need that intelligence to understand this. And intelligence, when you make out something, then you are to reflect on it. You are to think on it. Really, I have definitely intelligently understood or not. Thus, next para, thus we find in these examples of successful domestic practice that it is not the prolonged application of degree of cold in which the limb was frozen that restore it isopathically, it would thereby be rendered quite lifeless and dead if you put your feet in the ice for certain minutes, even already frostbitten, and you put it in the ice, it is going to be dead, going to be a gangrenous part. But a degree of cold that only approximates to that as homeopathy, which gradually rises to a comfortable temperature as frozen sauerkraut laid upon the frostbitten hand in the temperature of the room soon melts, gradually growing warmer from this temperature to this temperature of the room, reaching to the room temperature. And like this, he has given the further understanding how it is the degree of temperature helpful. In like manner, a hand scalded with boiling water would not be cured isopathically by application of boiling water, but only by somewhat lower temperature. So, like this, in the whole para, he is finishing explaining only two things, that physical things are not going to have any therapeutic power. It is the degree of the temperature which is you are using as a therapeutic power. That's it. Going to the next para. So, to give another example from the physical action, the injury result from a blow on the forehead with a hard substance is soon diminished in pain and swelling by pressing on the spot for a considerable time. I just make you understand simply. Suppose generally you have seen small child, those who are learning how to stand, and the children, those who are learning how to walk. So it is a very, if you really see this child, first time successfully able to stand, first time successfully able to step up, could walk some steps, it is as good as achieving a PhD degree. And what a pleasure to the child, and much more to the grandparents and the parents. I'm saying grandparents. They find it a pleasure out of the world. And suddenly this child falls down and got a hit on the head. Have you seen how the grandparents, what they do? By the time parents would react, before that grandparents already reacted. They have taken the child in the hand, and the part hit, the forehead hit, they will just hold the forehead very sharply, hold it and press it for certain minutes. This is the example. Is it not the similar kind of physical injury you are doing? You're treating injury with a very lesser quantity of injury. It is the homeopathic relation. It is the way the child is treated. Of course, including with the lot of love of the grandparents. But then this, especially this, doing a kind of injury. So this is the whole example he's talking, that you cannot simply throw the child again on the floor, hold him up, throw again back, and again give him the similar injury. This is isopathy. But then getting him and pressing the injured part with the hand is homeopathy. This is the difference. He is explaining this. The examples of cures by isopathy given in the book allowed it to muscular contractions in the human being and spinal paralysis in the dog, and he has given so many kind of examples here, and he is talking the snake bite and saying, giving somebody is snake bitten, if you really treat him the same amount of poison, he will die. But then if you change that quantity and all, you can make it homeopathic. So like this, he has given so many examples, and he's raising one man, Dr. Gross, who was working, I think, with him earlier, but then he became the follower of isopathy. But then Henman says he made his name with the law of similia by homeopathy, and then finally went into homeopathy in the isopathy. Made his name, all name he got with homeopathy, but then he made himself as an isopath. So, for which, ungratefully enough, as he is entirely indebted to similia similibus for all his fame and fortune. Here, he has nothing to blame him. The only and the sole aim of Master Henman was to not really give any bad name to homeopathy, and even not simply say that there is no difference between isopathy and homeopathy. Henman wanted to say that isopathy is no treatment. Anyone has to discard it. And the only way of treatment is homeopathy. See, you all study in the text of the Organon, you all study 4 types of therapeutic methods. And in the 4 types of therapeutic methods, Henman discussed each one of them. Henman talked about allopathy, he talked about isopathy, he talked about antipathy, and he talked about homeopathy. And he one by one sorted them and finally concludes that there are only 2 ways which are useful, and he gave the conditions. If you want to cure something, homeopathy, homeopathy, homeopathy. But then in the case when there is an imminent death, don't say emergency. What kind of emergency? Where death is imminent. It is coming, hasn't come, but then it is coming. Only those emergencies where the death is imminent, where the life has forgotten its dynamicity and started going with the organic powers and the organic energies of the body. In those conditions only, just for the purpose of reviving the vitality of the man, of that man, you are only to give antipathy. Again, as soon as the vitality revived, the scope of antipathy finishes and the only scope of homeopathy remains. So that is how he was able to tell you out of the 4 how to discard 2 completely, that allopathy and isopathy, and how little useful is antipathy, but useful. So much useful that homeopathy is not useful. Don't do homeopathy. Suppose somebody drowned in the swimming pool and is out unconscious. Don't try homeopathy that moment. He needs antipathy. But then when he is revived, again he requires homeopathic treatment. So this is how he was able to make all of us understand all this. So this is the whole paragraph. Just simply reading is not good. You can do it yourself. Then let us go to the another footnotes, where next para, just see painless skin. In this page there is a footnote. Let's go to this footnote. So it is regarding the burnt part when a cook is going to revive himself from the same heat. In that he says, so also Funalis, one reference is telling, considers that the best remedy for a burnt part is to bring it near the fire, whereby the pain is removed. John Hunter, a well-known name in the ancient time, on the blood inflammation, etc., mentions the great injury that results from treating burns with cold water, and gives a decided preference to approaching them to the fire, guided in this not by the traditional medicinal doctrines which, contraria contraris, prescribe cooling things for inflammation, but by experience which teaches that the application of heat is the most salutary, that is similia similibus curantur. So he is giving the reference of two well-known people of those time regarding the uselessness, regarding the harmfulness of doing something cool using the cold water on the burn and using some kind of hot. See, I tell you, for example, in your home, you're a homeopathic doctor, and you find some patient comes with the burn, and he immediately came to you without applying anything. The If you don't have even Cantharis mother tincture, the required thing is Cantharis mother tincture. Always keep it in the kitchen. Tell your all patients to keep it in the kitchen for immediate treatment. Thereafter, no more treatment required. But then patient comes, you don't have Cantharis mother tincture with you. The next is use your alcohol. You know, when we say we use RS, that RS is a 91% alcohol. Even if not anything, you use that, that is going to be quite useful, but not really like Cantharis, but then very good than anything else. So this is the first of the footnote of this page. Going to the second footnote. This footnote is again regarding the burn only. And here another name, Sydenham. I told you one day a little bit of history of medicine, that how this Greece was taken over by Romans, and those days the Greece disintegrated, and some Greek physicians, they came to the east, that means towards the western of Asia, and they were able to reach Arab. And in Arab, there is one very, very gifted physician born. He is known as Sydenham. If I am not mistaken, he is a personality. I am saying is because such people never die. He used to be known as the Hippocrates of the Arab, Hippocrates of the West Asia. This is the personality. Why I'm just quote you all this, that it must give you the impetus of understanding that Hahnemann was not writing references of some Tom, Dick and Hardy. He is giving you the reference. If you really Google them, you will come to know their gravity. Don't take very, very easy the references of Hahnemann. These references, even now, they really hold very good. If you open the books of history of medicine, you will come to know that what personality was he. He was the one who told us clinically regarding the measles, clinical symptoms of the measles, first time noted in the history of medicine by Sydenham. He is such man. So Sydenham says, when Sydenham says, that means a person like Hippocrates, person like Hahnemann saying something, how important it is going to be for all of us. Says the spirit of wine repeatedly applied is preferable to all other remedies in burns. Benjamin Bell too acknowledges that experience shows that homeopathic remedies only are efficacious. He says, now quote unquote, one of the best applications to every burn of this kind is strong brandy or any other ardent spirit. I told you, use your 91% alcohol, that is RS. It seems to induce a momentary additional pain, But this momentary additional pain is nothing but a kind of homeopathic aggravation. That is why he's quoting the aphorism here. But this soon subsides and is succeeded by an agreeable, soothing sensation. It proves most effectual when the parts can be kept immersed in it. Better immerse the part within this alcohol. But where this cannot be done, then should be kept constantly moist with the pieces of old linen soaked in spirits. I do in many of my cases of burn. I put a cotton well soaked in cantharis and leave it on the part for some half an hour, and thereafter there is no problem. Quote is finished. To this, I may add that Hanmin is saying now, to this I may add that warm and indeed very warm alcohol is much more rapidly and much more certainly efficacious, for it is much more homeopathic than when not heated. And all experience confirms this in a most astonishing manner. See how good clinical tips we are getting. We learn, we study the burn in surgery, the formula of 9 and everything for rehydrating the patient. All that very good. But then using this medicine will cure a patient much faster and surely. Then next page, maybe the 90th paragraph, that turpentine, oil of turpentine, there is a footnote. Edward Kentish, having to treat the workers in coal pits. Now you just see this example. What kind of burn it would be? It cannot be superficial burn. Having to treat workers in the coal pits who were so often dreadfully burnt, using the word dreadfully burnt, by the explosion of fire damp, applied heated oil of turpentine or alcohol as the best remedy in the most extensive and severest burn. See, we can say third degree burn. No treatment can be more homeopathic than this, nor in any more efficacious. Nothing like this, he says. But the amazing superiority of the application to burn of these remedies, which possess the power of exciting burning sensation and heat, and are consequently homeopathic, over palliative refrigerant remedies is most incontestably shows by pure experiment, in which the two opposite methods of treatment are employed for the sake of comparison in burns of equal intensity in the same body. I tell you one, he's just saying here that how can you compare the treatment, which one is faster and sure, homeopathic or allopathic, that you see if simply two areas are burnt, this hand and this hand, both are burnt. Treat this with homeopathy and treat this with allopathy and just see the recovery. I can remember one day my father, Dr. Agrawal, he was telling an instance that he had a discussion with one allopathic doctor. I'm talking this maybe some story of 80s, 70s and 80s. The doctor was contesting him on homeopathy. My father told that I told him, my father offered him, you do one thing, let us do both of us burn our fingers. You treat yours, I treat mine. You treat with yours allopathy and I treat it with my homeopathy. Let us see who is getting healed faster. So I was surprised seeing the earlier people of homeopathy, how and what kind of devotion they were having towards the system of homeopathy. Even they don't mind even burning their finger. So going further, thus Benjamin Bell, in the case of a lady who had scalded both arms, caused one to be covered with oil of turpentine and made her plunge the other into cold water. See the experiment done by Bell. In half an hour, the first arm was well, but the other continued to be painful for 6 hours longer. When it was withdrawn one instant from the water, she experienced much greater pain in it, and it remained a much longer time than the first for its cure. He did this experiment, and he understood how salutary is the homeopathic way of treatment, that is by turpentine. And like this, some more examples are being given. I wish every one of you should read, but then never mind, let us go ahead. John Anderson treated in a similar manner a lady who had scalded herself with boiling grease. The face, which was very red and scalded and excessively painful, was in few minutes after the accident covered with oil of turpentine. Her arm she had, on her own accord, plunged in the cold water, with which she desired to treat it with for some hours. In the course of 7 hours, her face looked much better and the pain was relieved. She had frequently renewed the cold water for the arm, but whenever she withdrew it, she complained of much pain in it. In truth, the inflammation in it has increased. The following morning, I found that she had had during the night great pain in the arms. The inflammation has extended above the elbow. Several large blisters has arisen and thick eshas has formed on the arm and hand. A warm poultice was then applied. The face was completely free from pain, but the emollient applications had to be used for the arm for a fortnight longer before it was cured. Who can fail to perceive in this instance the infinite superiority of homeopathic treatment by means of remedies of similar action over the wretched treatment of opposites contraria contraris of the antiquated ordinary school of medicine? Exclamation. See, he gave so many references, examples, experiments, and he showed that I am not saying people of those era, they are saying so. So going further, the old experience, next para I'm going, the old experience reaper. Another example, we are able to finish one example of the frostbite, then a few examples related to the burn treated with the turpentine or with the spirit wine or with some maybe the burns example are two. One is the superficial burn which the cook is getting, and rest are the examples of kind of deep burn. And all those examples you have read with the references and the experiments of the other school elaborated a lot on homeopathic treatment and came to know how harmful the opposite, that is using cold water. Going further, the old experienced reaper, although he may not be in the habit of drinking brandy. You understand reaper? What is reaper? Who is reaper? Reaper is one who is harvesting the crop. Harvester, you can say. When in the sun they are going to the place, reaping it, going to their field to cut the whole crop, you can understand. Generally, the when crop is going to cut, it is going to be very hot sun, and going in the sun doing this kind of physical activity, you almost burn like a sun, sweating and burning. And suppose when in such a heated stage, if you take bath or if you take cold water, what bad effect it is going to cause. So people those days, they knew it. We will not be taking cold water. The old experienced reaper, although he may not be in the habit of drinking brandy, will not touch the cold water because it will be a contraria contraris. When he has worked himself in a violent feverish state in the heat of sun, he knows the danger of such a proceeding, but he takes a small quantity of heating liquor. May not be in the habit, but then this is safe. A mouthful of brandy, either some liquor or some mouthful of brandy. Experience. What is experience? Experience is the teacher of truth. Has convinced him of the great superiority and efficacy of this homeopathic procedure, whereby his heat and fatigue are speedily removed. So, regarding the folklore, regarding the people, non medical people, Hahnemann has given four very bold examples. One is related to the frostbite. Then some of the examples with so many evidences from the old school physicians regarding the superficial burn and the deep burn. And one example, the most common example regarding a reaper, regarding a harvester, that how they work in the heat and become heated with sweat. They better find it useful curing to have a little bit of brandy instead of cold water, because that not only going to save them from the harm, rather the exhaustion will be supplemented by the alcoholic effect of the substance taken. So here we are able to finish with some of the examples, the non-medical people. Only one footnote he is talking here. He is giving some examples like John Hunter is not singular in asserting the great injury done by treating burns with cold water, and so many examples he is giving about all these kind of things. Let me read it better. W. Fabricius of Hilden also alleges that cold applications in burns are highly injurious and productive of most serious consequences. Inflammation, suppuration, and sometimes mortification are caused by them. Zimmerman informs us that the inhabitants of hot countries act in the same manner with the best results, and that after being very much heated, they swallow a small quantity of some spirituous liquor. Another example, I do not. Actually, this is the next thing. We will go for that. Now, after finishing this, now only the last portion, just for a couple of minutes, we will be doing it. It is the testimonies by Hahnemann, some evidences by Hahnemann in respect of law of similia, given by, seen by, written by the physicians of the old school. He was very careful. It was 1829, year 1829. By the time so many people were the followers of Hahnemann, he could ask anyone to write all these things. But then he says, I am giving you the examples in such a way when none of my disciple, none of the follower of homeopathy, none of the admirer of homeopathy will write in this. He will not be quoting anyone out of this category. Rather, he is giving all those names almost before the starting or the beginning of homeopathy. So what is he saying here? He says, there have occasionally been physicians who vaguely surmised, vaguely means they were not very sure, but then vaguely got enlightened that medicines cure analogous morbid states, similar morbid states, by the power they possess of producing analogous morbid symptoms. Same what we understand with the law of similia. In this, he writes a footnote, as I told you. I do not bring forward the following passages. Now, what next paragraphs is going to write regarding the references of the physicians? He says, I do not bring forward the following passages from authors who had a presentiment of homeopathy as proofs in support of this doctrine, which is firmly established by its own intrinsic merits. But in order to avoid imputation, means the accusation, in order to avoid any accusation of having suppressed these foreshadowings with the view of claiming for myself the priority of the idea. He says, I do not want that I tell some of the physicians of now, those who are now very well versed with homeopathy, if I quote them, it will be something like boasting myself. That I do not want. So all the examples given, 7 examples are given. All these examples are not from them, but they are all different. Thus, the author of the book, I am not reading this, I tell you where it is. Thus, the author of the book, which is among the writings attributed to Hippocrates, has the following remarkable words and such and such and so and so. Now, all of you, if you have this book, Ari Dajan book with you, in that you go to the end of the book. Go end of the book and see where appendix is ending, where appendix is finishing. After that, means it takes half a page for the appendix to be finished. Rest of the half of the page, there is a translation given about all these such words which are written in Greek. See, I made it a mark. And in your book also it is there. Can you see, all of you? Can you see, everyone? Are you able to get this out? Yes, good. So here, just read. See the third sentence here. Page 30, first line. Of places and according to individuals. This is the name of the book attributed to Hippocrates. Somebody can write, Himanshu, you can write this here. Those who are not having this book, at least they will come to know the translation. The translation is, there is a book which was written saying that it is the teachings of Henman. When you say attributed to, Henman taught, Hippocrates taught to so many. And so many of physicians wrote book and they said it is by Hippocrates. So it is of places and according to individuals. Means you can just say it like this: airs, waters, and places. And the translation is like this also. In this book attributed to Hippocrates, something is said by this physician who is writing this book in the name of Hippocrates. It is as if that Hippocrates only said so. He says, disease is due to causes of similar nature, similar type, as itself, and by applying remedies of similar nature, the sick gets cured. Example, it is by vomiting that a stop is put to vomiting. So this is first example. And if you Google Hippocrates, you will come to know he was in 1460th BC to 370th BC. You can imagine he is talking some like 2500 before. He started the whole thing from that era only. Then he is giving another example, the second one. Then let us go further to the next para. Later physicians have also felt and experienced the truth of homeopathic method of cure. Thus, for instance, another name, bulldog, for which there is a footnote, means he is giving an reference about some book or some place where bulldog, the physician of that time, definitely after Hippocrates, maybe uh, somewhere like 16th, 17th century person, bulldog perceived that the purgative property of rhubarb, that rhubarb having a tendency to cause diarrhea, was the cause of its power to allay diarrhea. Because it has a tendency to cause diarrhea, it is able to cure diarrhea. Another man, the Tharding, guessed that the infusion of senna leaves relieved colic in adults by virtue of its analogous action in causing colic in healthy person. Because senna, if you like, you can read this medicine in the Boric Medica. Senna is the medicine prepared from the leaves of this plant, causes colic, and because it causes colic in the healthy, that is why it is able to cure colic in a sick person. Next, Bartholon, fourth man, Bartholon, confesses that in diseases, electricity diminishes and removes pain, very similar to that which itself produces it. If somebody get electricity burn, definitely they get pain and all. Similar kind of pain, electricity able to cure. Next, Thowry testifies that positive electricity possesses the power of quickening the pulse, but when that it already morbidly accelerated it, diminishes its frequency. So it is these two examples are talking about the use of electricity and all. Next example, Thowry. Okay. Then next is Von Stroik makes the following suggestion in the quote. If stramonium disorders the mind and produces mania in a healthy person, ought we not to try if, in cases of insanity, it cannot restore reason by producing a revolution in the ideas? It's telling about the cases where mania is there. Stramonium is one such salutary medicine because stramonium causes such kind of mania. But a Danish army physician of the name of Stahl has expressed his conviction on this point in most unequivocal terms without any compromise. Quote, the rule generally acted on in medicines, says he, to treat by means of oppositely acting remedies, contraria contraris, is quite false and the reverse of what ought to be. I am, on the contrary, convinced that diseases will yield to and to be cured by remedies that produce a similar affection. See, army people talk like this only. They are very bold, very straight, very clear that the contraria contraris is a false and similia similibus is true. burns by exposure to the fire. Now he's giving the examples of the quote. It is only that army physician only saying how is justifying burns by exposure to the fire, frostbitten limbs by the application of snow and the coldest water, inflammation and bruises by distilled spirits, and in like manner I have treated a tendency to acidity of the stomach by a small dose of sulfuric acid, with the most successful result in cases where a number of absorbent remedies have been fruitlessly employed. So many people suffering with acidity, taking antacids every morning, empty stomach, doing this and that. Why not to use some similar medicine? He found at least sulfuric acid, one such medicine, which is going to cure such patient. But then definitely we need to be careful as a homeopathic physician that every case cannot be treated with sulfuric acid. How near was the great truth sometimes of being apprehended, but it was diminished with a mere passing thought, and thus the indispensable change of the antiquated medical treatment of the disease of the improper therapeutic system hitherto in vogue in a real, true, and certain healing art remain to be accomplished in our own times. So that is where we end up with this. In the last para, Hanmin actually wanted to say this, that how all this, which was so very near, the truth of the law of similia was so very near to the eyes, but then centuries passed. It was only waiting for, I am saying so, it was only waiting for Hanmin to come. And when Hanmin has come, he only uncovered the whole truth before us, and it uncovered in such a way that it became a separate stream of the treatment. So this is how Hanmin able to teach us. He made a ground for us that how difficult it was for me, in what torturous ways I have passed through to learn and to write my experiences to all of you. Reading this, everybody must feel him. We all must feel his pain, his torture in this journey. If we really feel so, we actually qualify for the next level of voyage, that is reading the text. We are in a voyage. Today, we are able to finish one very, very important landmark. Suppose if you're going to some place, you reached to some destination when you feel that how a very big portion of the journey completed. Today, it is this moment for every one of us to enjoy. That we are feeling today that at least we all are blessed. We all made a justification to our parents that they have paid for us, they have served us, they have made all care for us for learning homeopathy. And for learning homeopathy, we might have read so many things and we might have done so much of labor and so much of energy we put in the study of it. But then the main and important part we could not. So this kind of pleasure must be enjoyed by reading so many comments here. So many of you were writing some of the uh, experiences regarding the burn or what all that. So ultimately, we are able to complete this. I would request every one of you, find out your questions on it. Write me your questions on it now or even later or in the WhatsApp group, so that we can understand this. I must tell you, until and otherwise, we make this as our basis, we will not be able to appreciate the aphorisms. So we will be going starting from tomorrow the text, but then we will be keeping in mind the whole of the introduction part of Hahnemann, and as and when it is required, we will be referring it again and again required to portions of it. So really, it was a pleasure talking on introduction. It took, I think, some 15 lectures, maybe you can say some 15 hours. We sat together virtually and talked on it. You were with this talk all the time, and it was a great learning, not only academically but practically also, clinically also. So thank you, Monica. You're saying you made it very interesting. Good that you felt interested in it. Then Twinkle Goel says we are blessed to have you as a teacher. Thank you so much. Hema Thorat, I have suggested my friends to follow your lectures. Thank you, Hema. And I believe so many more to follow. Then Vinita Goel, good students are made by good teachers. So all credits to you. So we all should say, as you're saying, I learned saying this, that credit goes to my sir. Then thank you, Aditi, for telling this is para 86. Then Priya Garg. But this process increased the burning pain of the skull part as I experienced. So just to see what Hahnemann said, try in some other conditions, because initially they already told using something warm will really increase, but then it will soon subside and become all right. But then using cold, it is not really very good. Aditi, thanks to Dr. Hahnemann sir, thanks to you sir for enlightening us with this part of the organon which we generally don't study. Actually, Aditi, I appreciate that since the first lecture I am finding that you are online, you are with this lecture live almost, and I really appreciate your suggestion to make this WhatsApp group, and I really appreciate your seriousness, your sincerity towards the learning, teaching. Though sometimes it might not be really needed for you, you already, I think, working as a medical officer and all that. So, but then I appreciate your sincerity towards the Organon, towards the Hahnemann, towards homeopathy, and definitely uh, we can say that people like all of you, homeopathy still can see the safe hands. Then Rimi Bashal, yes sir, thanks to Dr. Hahnemann. Yes, we all must say so. Anvita Sinha, I regularly follow your channel and your knowledge is bountiful. You convey it in such a lucid manner to all of us. I request you to please discuss the appendix portion after completing the introduction. You mean, Anvita, that we should be discussing the appendix portion of the introduction first before going to the text? You want me that? Just write me. Then Gifty, yes, you're right. Press the forehead. Means the part which got hurt. For the burn, Gifty, I never allow all this compress with the cold and all. It just don't really help. Better use Cantharis mother tincture. Soak in the Cantharis mother tincture and wait for some time. And no use to use all this cold and all. Achha, regarding you're saying the cold compress for injury and arthritis. See, in the injury, cold compress is all right because the internal bleedings, the micro bleedings, they get stopped with that. But then, not really good for arthritis. But then there are certain patients, those who are, you should be able to ask whether patients are better or they are simply following the doctor. Then some 22 Anav, I don't know the name exactly. I have experienced it firsthand as a child when my back got burnt. Don't know what's there in the potato which does this trick. Okay, you find that using potato it became all right. Okay, yes, all right. Isha, you wrote the name of the book, and Himanshu also wrote. Thank you so much. Then Priya Garg, sir, this is a small question not related to the present topic. In my book, intro is a intro is of 52 pages. So if it will ask in exam about pages of introduction, that will have to say 30 pages as in other Organon book. See, I tell you, these are not the questions to be asked because then I tell you now, the system for doing the entrance examination is a very, very foolproof system. It is with NTA, National Testing Agency. It is a very high-end agency. Nowadays this getting conducted these kind of entrance examination, they are not only doing for us only, they are even doing for the uh, engineering also. And you understand it is much tougher than us. They are very, very scientific, so don't worry about it. Very, very scientific as far as I know. Then Rimi, thank you so much, sir. Sort of in college again. You made it, na? You actually made it. I also feel that I am talking to a class. Uh, Initially, when I was to take this lecture in this virtual manner, it was very difficult for me. First, I belong to the electricity age, not very well versed with this electronics. But then, slowly, courtesy to all of you, I learnt all this. Not really all, but then definitely some of it. And I think first time one group of homeopathic doctors in Canada, they talked to me about this virtual lecture. So I said yes. Then I was thinking how to do it, but then that was my first experience, and that went very well. And now I don't feel that nobody is talking to me. This live chat is something very good, and there are much more platforms I believe coming, like Zoom. Zoom is said not very safe and all. I don't know. There must be some issues. But then so many platforms are now coming up, like Zoom, maybe the Indian platforms. Someday we will be doing things with that. Thank you, Remy. Then Anvita is saying yes. So, Pankaj Aggarwal, thank you so much. Thank you for you that you are able to get time to really come live and listen me. Then Dr. Sushil Gupta, according to Hanuman sir, in lesser writings, turpentine oil mixed with alcohol is miraculous results. Maybe you can quote the exact thing for every one of us. Thank you everyone for all this. Okay, somebody is saying Google Meet. We will see Google Meet. I'll just check with that. But then for now, we will be continuing here only because we already have done this. We are all very much used to what we are doing with the YouTube live. Pooja is writing, big thank you, sir. So daily you are giving us knowledge with lots of dedication. As a student, what we can do for you, it's a debt on us. So I appreciate Puja, and as you said, I got it. Thank you so much, and you keep giving me this dedication so that we can really go ahead. See, harnessing something, keeping homeopathy alive, keeping Organon alive is must. And to really keep Organon alive, this dedication, as of all of you, including Puja, is a must. And as you all come and don't leave the platform until I say sign off, this itself is a mm, gift to me, because here it is not a actual classroom I can hold all of you like college. Gifty knows it well. In the college, in the class, they might be not interested, but then they can't leave the class. Here nobody can hold you, but then still you all are here all the time. I am talking to you. So all this dedication is real gift to me, and don't feel that any debts on you. You every day be here, show your sincerity, uh, really doing something with dedication is all paid, no debts. Gifty says, thank you. Make the Organon so easy and interesting. Basant Agrawal, sir, it is very nice experience to learn Organon from you. But I would say that what all you can do is you can make your friends aware about this. More and more people should join. I am not insisting that all should be able to join this live, but then it is good that more and more people should listen this. I purposely kept my talk, most of the portion in English, though I am not a very good orator in English. But then the purpose of saying it in English is that it will not only for North Indians only. There is no difficulty for most of the students to be in learning, understanding English. But then uh, for many of the students, especially if we go to the south, they have lot of difficulty understanding Hindi. So that is the reason I said at least these lectures on the Organon should be for pan India homeopathic students. And I'm not saying that these are all I just telling you something, a very high knowledge. To my understanding, I am telling you something very elementary, the very basics. But then in this talk on basics, whatever you are going to learn, it will make a ground for you to understand the real things and make an advancement in your knowledge further. You will be able to understand my words, references I am telling you, and so many other points. If you simply Google them, and ultimately, Google opens the world for every one of us. We will be able to get so many things out of that. So it is really nice be on this platform with all of you talking on Organon, and I wish, if God permits, I will be continuing talking on Organon, all my basics in the same way as we are doing for last some almost going to be a month. And this way, in some couple of months, we will be able to complete the whole Organon. And let me see what is to be done As one suggestion was to talk on appendix regarding the introduction, and those who are in the group of WhatsApp of this Audisapre, those who want to be, they can join, and those who are in the group, I wish all of you please suggest if you want me to discuss appendix first or go to the text first regarding the introduction, so that we can go further accordingly in a unanimous manner. Himanshu is saying something. Thank you so much, sir, for enlightening us with your wisdom and kind words each day. Yes, thank you so much. Shikha Garg, thank you for the enlightening us such a best and interesting way to read and understand Organon. Monica, yes, sir, I was also there in first batch of Paxson. Acha, first batch of Paxson. What's your full name, Monica? I never thought that Organon is this much interesting. Daily, really, I'm waiting when my clock says it's 5. Oh, wow. Thank you so much. Uh, Monica Tyagi. Acha, acha, acha. Okay. Now I remember. Good. So it is such a pleasure getting all those, so many of the students along with whom I learned how to teach. Thank you very much. And I believe that we will be able to go ahead with our voyage, and we will be completing our journey together. Thank you very much, every one of you. Do write me that how you want to go ahead. Go first to the appendix regarding the introduction or going to the text first. So, thank you very much, everyone. Sign off. Then we meet tomorrow virtually. Okay, bye bye. Thank you.